Republican strategist Frank Luntz joins me now. I don't know. The woman in the crowd shouts the word out. Donald Trump clearly gets enjoyment out of it. He's entertained.
What word? I didn't hear it. Can you say that word again?
Yeah, I never said it. But the P word that rhymes with wussy. Here's the thing, Frank.
Does CBSN not have the guts to say the word that a presidential candidate actually used? And by the way, I'm only half kidding. When you think about it, if the language is used in a political rally, why is CBS News afraid to say that word when it's online, when there are no rules, there are no regulations, you cannot break the law? I mean, so much of this campaign is about testing how we treat each other, testing the civility of politics. I know you're offended by it, and so am I, but if Donald Trump will use that word, why won't you?
I gotta say, I'm not easily offended, right? I mean, I've worked in newsrooms for 20 years. I've heard language that's far worse. The thing that gets to me is, number one, I'm the mom of small kids. And what Bob Schieffer said this morning about what are you going to do, send your kid out of the room when there's political coverage on because you don't know what kind of language is going to be used? Number one. Number two, I think as a woman, my sensibilities are, basically you're using a term for the female anatomy to describe someone that you disrespect.
You know he didn't mean it that way. You know he just wanted to say that Ted Cruz is weak. And I have an issue with civility in politics, and I've been talking about this now for 6 months, that we have lost the ability to actually talk to each other in normal terminology, that we've lost the ability to have a civil, sane conversation. And it is so frustrating to me. But the issue also is, what is it that he gets 35% of the vote? And I'll go on record. Donald Trump, the man who used that word, is going to win tonight, and he's going to win by a good margin. I think it's going to be at least 10 points. So clearly society has changed, politics have changed, communication has changed, and when you go and bleep out the word, it's a little bit inauthentic since we're having a whole segment on that word, and yet we can't say it.
Right. Okay. Well, you're going to have to take that up with my producers. I don't say it because I don't want someone to clip this and then replay it on social media again and again and again, because that's where it lives. And look at what's happened with Donald Trump. It has become the talking point here. Let me get back to the civility in politics and why Donald Trump is doing well. When we talk about his appeal for being politically incorrect, and in this case, a little crude, right? Maybe people are just sick and tired of fake being nice. Maybe they're sick and tired of being tiptoeing around their words so that they don't offend the person sitting on the other side of the desk, the other side of the office, the other side of the dinner table.
The public genuinely wants someone who, number one, says what they mean and means what they say. They want someone who what they say today is what they're going to say 6 months from now and actually do 12 months from now. And they're tired of all this political rhetoric, quite frankly, and I'll be candid here, created by people like me that's meant to distract voters from the real issues. And so Trump talks so directly, so in your face. In one small sense, I respect it because finally voters are getting exactly what they're asking for. But in a greater sense, I don't, for the point that you made. The idea that kids can no longer watch a political speech. We did a Muslim group, and CBSN ran a number of segments of it. And in that, several women said they will not let their kids watch TV when Trump is speaking because they're afraid they're going to hear something that's offensive to their children. What is happening in American society that this becomes not only acceptable, but preferable? That you've got people running for office that speak with consistency and clarity. And I'll give Jeb Bush as an example, and yet no one pays any attention to him. But every time Trump says something radical, suddenly that's where the focus is. I think that this is part of a deeper problem and something that deserves our attention and deserves our analysis.
Okay, so Jeb Bush, speaking of which, he was fighting fire with fire this weekend, and he actually took some of that name calling to task, and he looks at the crowd at this campaign event and he goes, you know who's the loser? Donald Trump, you're the loser. And I was surprised to hear that kind of name calling, but what the polls show is that Jeb Bush has a fighting chance to occupy that second place position when the primary results come in tonight. So is that what is going to work?
Yes, and in fact, I'm looking at your percentages right below on the screen that you got there. The thing that I'd be saying to Jeb Bush is saying it in a rally is meaningless. You have to say it to Donald Trump in a debate, and you do something like this. You ask him, are you finished? Are you finished? Are you finished? You know, Mr. Trump, my vocabulary is a lot larger than telling someone to shush or be quiet. My vocabulary does not include words like yours, but I wasn't raised on the streets. I was raised to be respectful, to treat people with dignity, to behave in a way that we would want our presidents. So if this is the best you can do, I'd even call him pathetic. But Jeb Bush doesn't do that. He fights Trump fire for fire in these debates, and that's why he loses every encounter with Trump.
You know, I talked to somebody from Bush's campaign, his campaign strategist, and I asked him about the role of personality, and he's talking about how much Bush can point to his record as governor of Florida, and that he's got the kind of leadership skills and the kind of managerial skills that matter. And I said, yeah, but if you can't get voters to like him, then it's meaningless. How much, when these people are being advised by their strategists and their campaign managers and all of that, how much of an emphasis in this day and age needs to be put on the cult of personality?
A tremendous amount, because in the end, persona is what drive independent voters. Something that we really haven't talked about in this campaign. You got 25% of Americans who are Republican, 25% of Americans who are Democrat, and 50% that are somewhere in the center. And those are the people who are not voting based on ideology or policy. They're voting based on persona, who that person is. In fact, because they're independents, they reject the answers of the left, reject the answers from the right, and make the decision. I'm taking, again, looking at your graph, the idea that here we are on election day, and you have 20% of the electorate who haven't made up their minds. Those are independents. They're not voting based on issues. And you have to prove to them that you have the leadership they're looking for, the strength to fight for voters, the willingness to take a stand and not back down. And all of the attributes that Republicans are looking for are basically strength attributes.
Yeah.
It is something that a governor has. Senators often don't have it. Governors have to be strong. Governors have to be tough. And for Jeb Bush, it is an issue of persona, because he was a great governor and he's got an awesome record.
And Frank, to your point, it looks like John Kasich is making some headway because of that as well. In fact, Dixville Notch, tiny little town in Coos County, New Hampshire, the first to vote, they started at midnight. My understanding is 12 people voted. John Kasich comes out on top, 3-2. And it looks like the Dixville residents have demonstrated approximately 70% accuracy in their voting. What do you think will happen with John Kasich in New Hampshire?
Well, if it were possible for me to base all my work on 12 voters, I'd be a very rich man. And Dixville Knox has gotten it wrong. By the way, I'm amazed that you can even say that word these days based on what Trump had to say. That John Kasich has been rising over the past few weeks because he's up here. This has become his home. He is focused on New Hampshire. The challenge for Kasich, let's say he does well, where does he go next? He doesn't have an organization in any other state. Jeb Bush has tens of millions of dollars still to spend. Kasich doesn't have much. I don't want to undercut his success here, because I do agree with you that he will be in the top 4 in New Hampshire tonight. But the challenge for him is, what is your encore?
Frank Luntz, it's good to talk to you. I really enjoy it. Thank you for your time.
And let's hope that the FCC was not watching this encounter this afternoon.